When you're doing your NEBOSH NG1 exam or your IG1 exam, some questions are just so easily answered with the help of course materials and some scrutiny of the scenario. And in your course materials, you might find a nice, useful list of things to talk about, which might be relevant to the scenario. And then you've got other questions where it's a very broad question and there isn't a simple list. In fact, the question might cover multiple topics from your course. And so when you're researching your answer, you're trying to think, right, what is this actually assessing? Is it that, or is it that, or is it that? Well, it might be all of those. Let's talk about a very common type of question which comes up regularly, and it's this. What management failures could have contributed to the accident? Now the question comes up in different forms. It might be what management failures contributed to the near miss, or to the incident, or the accident, or the trend of accidents. It can come up in a few different ways, but it's talking about management failures. And well, firstly, it's like, what is a management failure? Well, if we go to our course materials, and if we do a search for the word management failure, let's see if we can find anything. Right, well, not a lot. There's 3 mentions of this. Right, here we go. Root causes are also commonly called management failures. Great, and here we've got a list of things. A list, there we are, nice list there. We've got 7 things, 7 things. Okay, 7 things, but here we've got a 15-mark question. So straight away, we're on the defensive, aren't we? You might be thinking, oh, Compassa's course materials, they're not very good. No, they're absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. But it's like, for a lot of questions, the answer's not in the course materials, it's in the scenario. You have to know what a management failure is. Now, it's obviously getting at things like root causes, like negative safety culture, failure in systems, failure in procedures, not enforcing standards, lack of resources, lack of commitment, and so on. But there's another way of thinking about what a management failure is. Here's the syllabus. And if we go down here, if we have a look at this, it says Unit NG1, Management of Health and Safety. Management of Health and Safety. You see, the whole NG1 unit is about the management of health and safety. And now we have a question that's asking you about the management failures. If we take a look at our study book, we go right to the very top. Notice the title of our study book, Managing Health and Safety. That's what we've named it. And if we have a look at our table of contents, look at what we've got. Why we should manage. The managing of contractors, management systems, managing risk, people, processes, monitoring and measuring, which are also parts of the management system, I might add. You see, this is a very broad question. It's not a difficult question. It's just a very broad question because it's actually testing you on your understanding of the entire NG1 unit, with perhaps the exception of the law, because the law isn't management, it's just basic legal stuff you need to know. But starting from maybe there, managing of contractors, it's testing you on all of that, and it's asking you to spot which failures of these things can you see in the scenario, or can you infer from the scenario, which led to that accident. Now, if we look at the question very carefully, which ones could, so possible, could have contributed. Contributed means play a role. And if you don't know what contribute means, I've done another video on this, but maybe just look it up. Contribute, meaning. What does it mean, contribute? It's to help to cause, It didn't cause it, but it helped cause it. So maybe something that was a little bit indirect. This accident, the accident, not all accidents, not the near miss, missed production deadlines, whatever it is, the accident. And it's a 15-mark question. So we can assume that we will probably get 1 mark for every management failure. So can you think of 15, 20, 25 management failures? Well, should we take a look at it? Now, this is a fake scenario. This is not a NEBOSH scenario. NEBOSH scenarios are copyrighted. I'm not allowed to use them in the video, but this is pretty close. Might not be perfect, but it's pretty close. So let's have a quick read through of it. Here we've got a bit of an introduction, setting the scene, and we've got some stuff about staff and who the staff are. And the company also employs a young apprentice. New employees receive a brief induction before joining the assembly line to help meet tight project deadlines. Okay. Now, if we look at the incident's all about someone who is trying to carry computer servers from the storage room upstairs. They trip over something on the stairs and fall down the stairs, and we've got some light bulbs that are not working and so on. What you have to do is read through the scenario, trying to spot failures of all of these these things, and if you've understood the course materials, if you understand how health and safety is managed, it should be fairly easy. First of all, you might find, if you read it, that this new member of staff only received a very brief induction. So maybe that played a part in it. Maybe the skipping of the breaks here is causing fatigue, which perhaps led to the accident happening. So they're frequently standing for long hours. Okay, we've got that. This GM, emphasizing productivity and meeting deadlines above all else. Okay, so maybe the lack of management commitment to health and safety is one of the management failures which led to the accident. We've got safety meetings are rare. Okay, right, so maybe the failure to review health and safety performance is partly what led to this accident occurring, because they haven't discussed the previous health and safety issues that have been raised, they haven't agreed what they're going to do about them, they've just let those things exist, and eventually it led to an accident. Here we've got a young apprentice, right, a young apprentice who's hurt themselves. They've been with the company for 2 weeks. Right, okay, so they are new, they're a new person, they're a young person. They've been asked to retrieve some computer servers from the storage room upstairs. The storage room has items stacked on shelves on the floor without any lifting equipment available. Okay, right, so a failure to provide the necessary equipment to do the job safely. That contributed to the accident. The technician decides to carry 2 servers down the stairs. Okay. If they'd received more than just a brief induction, if they'd been told, like, don't carry things that are too heavy for you, don't carry things down the stairs, they'd had a more thorough induction course. Maybe they wouldn't have done that. Maybe had they been provided with what type of training? Manual handling training. Yes, maybe. Now it doesn't say, this is a cool thing, it doesn't mention manual handling training in the scenario, but you could infer from this that they probably haven't received any manual handling training, and had they received that training, they would have known better than to try and carry 2 big computer servers down the stairs by themselves. We could also say that there's a complete lack of a safe system of work for this task. For example, we could just add a little comment there, lack of a safe system of work for this manual handling task. So if you wanted to, you can highlight, you can leave little comments on your exam paper like that to help you then write an answer when you've finished reading it all. The apprentice trips on something on the steps and falls with the servers landing on them. So there's this cable, we're going to find it's a cable shortly. I think it's a cable, yeah. Colleague hears the commotion, supervisor calls for a first aider. That's not relevant because that didn't contribute to the accident. Broken leg, concussion, not relevant, doesn't contribute to the accident. But the stairs are dimly lit due to several light bulbs not working. Right, okay. Now that's not a management failure. But the management failure is the failure to maintain the equipment, to maintain the levels of lighting. There's also a failure to monitor the levels of lighting, to spot the hazards. The failure to do inspections. Remember our course materials. Look down here. We've got monitoring and measuring, inspections and things like that, audits and so on. We've got cable training across the stairs, so a failure to manage the housekeeping. A colleague comments that they've reported that cable many times. So a failure to take action on the hazard reports of colleagues. Staff are told to be careful, no further actions taken, cable remains on the stairs, no adjustments made to the lighting or the condition of the staircase. And it makes you wonder, it's like, have there been previous accidents? And possibly they have. Remember the question. The question is, what could have? Not what definitely did, what could have? If you've had other near misses, other accidents, chances are they were not investigated. No action was taken. They never acted on those things. They haven't reviewed performance. They haven't looked at the trends. Can you see there's probably like 5 or 6 different marks in there just by talking about their failure to investigate accidents? Can you see how broad of a question this is? Now let's look at my final piece of work that I've created here. So I've also made notes like there's no health and safety advisor. Every company, at least in the UK, by law has to have access to competent advice. Now that could be a consultant or it could be an internal advisor. But when they mention like the GM, the technicians, the administrative personnel, where's the health and safety advisor? There isn't one. Okay. That's a management failure. We've got a young person as well. Yes, that's a good point. So we've got a young apprentice who is given work beyond their capability. That's a breach of the law. That's the management of health and safety work regulations. That's a failure. And I would also say there's a failure to do a risk assessment which considers young people. Again, you've got to do a young person's risk assessment. You've got to factor them in. Why are you giving them a manual handling task if you haven't assessed the risks to the young person? Anyway, if we look at all the list of stuff here, what have I got? I've got competent advice, the failure to provide effective induction training, manual handling training. realistic workloads, failure to provide breaks leading to fatigue, review of health and safety performance. Just to be clear, this is not the answer to my question. I might not get marks for this. I need to write these out in full and explain how these things contributed to the accident. So I could say something like, let's go for the manual handling training. No manual handling training was provided to the young apprentice. Had they received this training, they would have known that carrying 2 heavy servers down the stairs was unsafe. Okay, done. Done. That's worth 1 mark. I've made my point, I've explained my point, and I've referred to the scenario as necessary, as applicable. Because the question says you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. What else could we say? We could say they failed to review health and safety performance. Existing health and safety meetings focus on non-health and safety issues. That's nearly good enough by itself, to be honest. Had they properly reviewed previous performance, they may have acted sooner and made the necessary improvements to housekeeping. Housekeeping. There we are. So that's kind of the level of management failures that I've spotted. Loads. I got 22. I can't guarantee that all are mark worthy. That's not a marking scheme in any way. It's just my best guess, having read that, as to what there is. More than enough to get the 15 marks. Try and find 20, 25 management failures for a 15 mark management failure question, write them out in full, show how the management failure contributed to the accident, and you're a good one. Just remember though, that those answers only work for that scenario. Every scenario is different. So whatever you do, don't take these answers and then use them on your exam if you get this question. You'll have a completely different scenario. And so those answers probably won't get marks. Go for your scenario, find your own management failures, and answer the question to the best you can. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I hope that video serves you well.